Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. For connectors, cables, and more, call 920-435-2973 or visit pl-259.com. And by the Ham Station. Get your new radio or antenna by calling 800-729-4373 or go to hamstation.com.
It's Ham Radio.
Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Ham Talk Live, episode number 19, Field Day Q&A with Sean Kutzko, KX9X, recorded live on Thursday, June 23rd, 2016. I'm your host, Neil Rapp, WB9PPG, and thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ham Talk Live. This evening, Sean Kutzko, KX9X, is here from the American Radio Relay League, and he's going to talk all about Field Day, so we'll take your calls live in just a few minutes. Last week on the show, Dan Romanchik, KB6NU, was here to talk about the new extra class license test pool and teaching one-day and weekend technician classes. If you missed that show, you can listen anytime at hamtalklive.com, or you can listen to the download on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, or SoundCloud, and it's also available on YouTube. Get all your Field Day questions ready to go. This is your chance to get those answered. You can call us on Skype at the username HamTalkLive, or you can call us by telephone. The telephone number is 812-NET-HAM1. 812-NET-HAM1. That's 812-638-4261. You can also send us a question via Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @HamTalkLive. Next, Sean Kutzko, KX9X, on the topic of Field Day, right after this word from Tower Electronics, right here on Ham Talk Live. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. Tower Electronics has been the Ham's dime store since 1978, bringing connectors, antennas, cables, and other parts to the world. Scott and Jill travel the country bringing their store to you at HamFest, but you can also order online at pl-259.com or by calling 920-435-2973. Stock up on those supplies like PL259 and end connectors, audio cables, mobile antennas, and ham sticks. Their silver-plated end connectors are even in use on the International Space Station. Tower Electronics is a dealer for MFJ, Comet, Daiwa, OPEC, Workman, and Ham Pro Technologies. Tower Electronics, online at pl-259.com, proud to sponsor this episode of Ham Talk Live.
A flashlight is a case for holding dead batteries. Now, here's Neil Rapp with more Ham Talk Live.
We'd like to thank Scott and Jill at Tower Electronics for sponsoring the show tonight so we can bring you Ham Talk Live. They'll be at the Oak Creek, Wisconsin Ham Fest on July 9th. Call 920-435-2973 or visit their website at pl-259.com. Be sure to listen every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time right here on hamtalklive.com. And if you missed the show, you can download the podcast from the website and most popular podcasting websites. Sean Kutzko, KX9X, is the former contest manager and currently the media and public relations manager at the American Radio Relay League, or ARRL, the National Association for Amateur Radio. Sean enjoys portable operations, satellites, and QRP the most at this time. He's an avid DXer and has had the chance to be the DX several times. Sean was licensed in 1982 and is originally from Central Illinois, actually not too far away from me, and attended the nearby University of Illinois. Sean has been on the ARRL staff since 2007, and notably, he's the world-famous drummer for the world-famous Spurious Emissions Band. So, Sean, welcome to Ham Talk Live.
Hey, Neil, how you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for coming on. We've got 2 days until field day, so hopefully everybody has some of their plans made at least. And any last-minute details, hopefully we can help them out with that tonight.
Oh, I hope so.
So tonight we want to focus on field day, so we're going to try to limit our discussion to that. But first, I have to tell this story about how I met Sean. I had the opportunity to go to ARRL headquarters several years ago for the Teachers Institute. And the Teachers Institute is by far the best professional development I've ever been to as an educator. It was an entire week in the conference room out at league headquarters, and we went through all kinds of stuff to show the kids, to build for the kids, to have them build, to do all these things. And it was just the best thing, and I absolutely loved being out in Newington because on lunch I could sneak over across the parking lot to W1AW and operate for a while.
That's always a big attraction.
But yeah, right across from the conference room in a little hallway, there's this little office. And I've been in your new office at one point before you had that position. So I know the office space is much nicer now.
I'm thinking about renting some of it out as a putting green.
Really? He's got just a little bit bigger office than the one he used to have. But anyway, he had one of his old Illinois ham radio license plates hanging up on the wall. And so every day when we took a break, I would go out in the hall and I kept seeing KX9X on the license plate. And I'm like, now wait a minute. I know KX9X. That's not him. and I'm like, I'm going to go talk to this guy at some point, because when I was a young ham, in my pre-teens, one of the things that I would do is I was really, really into 2-meter FMDX, which is kind of strange, I guess, but we had a boomer up, and it was about 50 feet high and an amplifier and everything. And I was always trying to see what repeaters I could get. And I made little index cards and had them in this little box. And I would write down the frequency and the offset, and the call sign and the location of every repeater I had ever hit. And then I would make notes on when I could get it and when I couldn't. And one of the repeaters that I found that I could only get sometimes was one in Seymour, Indiana, which is actually just down the road from me now, where I live now. And the Seymour, Indiana repeater was on 145.43, and it was the KX9X repeater. And so I just always heard that call sign. And so I talked to the guy a lot. Whenever I would call in, he was usually the guy around that would give me a signal report. And so, I got to know him fairly well on the repeater. And he passed away, and the repeater actually went silent for a long time. Finally, they reorganized and brought it back up. So Sean got a hold of that call, and so I duck into his office during break, and he has no idea who I am, and I go in there and say, "Where'd you get that call sign?"
And I got that when the Vanity program first opened up in November of '96, and I chose it because I liked the symmetry of it.
Yeah, it's a great call sign.
Mm-hmm. I had no idea that the person who owned it before me. I did a little bit of research into the gentleman who had the call before me, but I had no idea that he had a repeater. So the story that you just told is a new story to me. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I always like finding out, researching calls because the Vanity program has been in play for so long now. It's interesting to track the history of how some of these call signs have come along and how they've evolved and who's picked them up.
Well, I went out on a search this afternoon when I got home, and was trying to find the guy's name, and I finally found I think a 1983 call book online, and I finally found it. It was Leroy Woodard from Seymour, Indiana, KX9X. So that's the story of meeting Sean. And every time I've seen him since, so I always make it a point to say hi, and the rest is history.
And the things have been great ever since.
Absolutely. So you started out in your little bitty office as the contest branch manager.
That's true.
And then recently you decided to take on the big shoes of the public relations manager.
That is true. I was promoted, if you will, in 2013 after the previous PR manager, Alan Pitts, retired, and I took over at that point in time. And it's been a lot of fun because I've, as contest branch manager, you focus primarily on contesting. That's what that job is. But as PR manager, you have to learn about all facets of ham radio, and you have to promote the hobby in general. And that has been a great education for me. And it has been wonderful to meet folks from all across the hobby, all different interests. And I really couldn't be happier. It's just great.
Yeah, and you're the perfect person to have on tonight because you've been in that contest manager seat for many years, and then now you're the big PR guy. So it just made total sense to ask you to come on the show. So we're so glad that you're here. Before we dig in here, why don't you share your story about your very first field day?
Oh God, my first field day. Oh goodness. Okay. Well, let's see. I got licensed in April of 1982. I took my novice test thanks to the University of Illinois Club, the Sinton Amateur Radio Club, W9YH. Hello to anybody at the club if they're listening tonight. And I was asked by the club members in Champaign, Illinois, if I would be their novice station for field day in 1982, and I said, of course, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into at that point. Bunch of college kids hanging out at this place west of town, west of Champaign-Urbana, in this little dinky town called Bondville, and there was a research station there that had an extremely large antenna that was several telephone poles in a giant circle, and it had an observation tower like you would find like a fire observation tower in national parks or something like that. That had you had to climb up to the top of it, and it had this 10 by 10 room about 120 feet above the ground, and this whole area was known as the bird cage. And it was some sort of research facility by the University of Illinois, I believe. And so they said, we're going to do field day from the birdcage. Bring your radio with you, and we'll set up shop in this little 10 by 10 room 120 feet above the Illinois prairie. And I said, sure. So I lugged my Heathkit HW101 and that big power supply that it had up these stairs and got tucked away into the corner. And with the help of the engineering guys, the double E guys from the university, I threw a giant dipole off the top of this platform. There was a platform above the 10 by 10 building on this observation tower, and we threw all the dipoles and wires off the top of that, and had just a nice array of slopers. And they put me in the corner of the room, and they said, "Okay, go to it and see how many extra bonus points you can get us as the novice station this year." And so I jumped on 40 and 80 in the novice bands back then, and worked what seemed to be a ridiculous, never-ending pileup of stations in my memory. And I felt completely overwhelmed, and I felt like I was sitting on a de-expedition to Herd Island or something like that. And in preparation for being on tonight's show, I actually dug out my logbook from Field Day back in 1982, and I counted them all up, and I worked 62 stations in 24 hours. But I'd been licensed for 3 months, and it was the most activity that I'd had on the radio up to that point, and it just seemed like a cacophony of Morse code at that young point. So 14 years old, 62 contacts in 24 hours, and I just ate it up. It was thrilling. And there were all kinds of other mishaps and adventures that took place that only occur on Field Day. They asked me to be a human antenna rotator for an Oscar satellite pass, and that was a comedy of errors. I had no idea what I was doing, and it was like something out of the Keystone Cops, But point it over there, look up higher, no, turn it this way, and it was terrible. So, but I learned a lot, and it was the first time that I felt like I was accepted by a peer group of people that were older than me, because we were all amateur radio operators and I was the new kid on the block, and they were actually taking time to welcome me and bring me into the fold and help show me the ropes a little bit. And I remember feeling a part of the group as I fell asleep that night, 120 feet above the prairie, on this observation platform above the room, with the wind blowing fairly hard. I remember I was in a sleeping bag with a little inflatable mattress on the top of it, and the wind was blowing so hard I actually had to turn my sleeping bag around 180 degrees so it wouldn't suck me out. So that memory, your first Field Day, is always just etched into your brain, and I will never forget that.
Oh yeah, I grew up in Vincennes, Indiana, and we had this park right along the banks of the Wabash River. It was called Kimmel Park, and there's this huge outdoor shelter house that was there, and we set everything up there, and I always liked it because, again, I was a novice at the time. And so I liked it because I got to use extra class privileges.
Oh, yeah.
I could grab a hold of that microphone instead of my key. And so I did some CW, but I always liked to get a spot on the microphone because that's something I rarely was able to do. And so I was Elmered by many really good amateur contesters. I wouldn't put them in the class of professional contester, but boy, they weren't far from it. And I remember Steve Sage, N09N, which he was WB9UKH at the time, and he was our best operator, and he took me, and showed me how to make a run. And he didn't do search and pounce. He got on a frequency. He called and took them as fast as he could go. And a lot of my contesting skills came from that Field Day. That was my first experience with contesting, and honestly my only experience with contesting for many, many years. And so field day, and we can get into this later, there's always the debate of, well, is it a contest? Is it not?
Right.
Right. To me, it was always a contest. We were out there and we were going to see how many, pileups we could get and how many and we could knock out. And I just had a blast. Of course, I'm, a 5-year-old kid, 6-year-old kid, out there. And then, I remember a couple of years later, then I had my general, and so I could be in the general band by myself, and that.
Oh yeah, that's a
seven,
big deal.
That was a big deal, I could be on there by myself now. And so field day is always a very, very good thing. So we want to take everybody's questions, but before we do that, just give us a quick rundown of what's changed this year. What's new?
Well, I would say there are probably two big things that are new this year. We've got a couple of new bonuses that are available for Class A stations, the Club Portable folks out there. There are two new bonus points that you can gather. One is a social media bonus. So if you are using a recognized social media platform, so that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, platforms of that nature, a defined social media platform, and you send out tweets or status updates or video or audio of what's going on your field day site, and to help promote your field day effort, we'll give you 100 bonus points for that. And we can also talk about later on, if you want, we can talk about the way that the social media bonus is also set up to help you with your public outreach far beyond field day. It's a critical component of the public relations messaging that we have available to us in amateur radio today. And so one way that you can get your feet wet with that, if you are not already active with social media, is you can use the social media bonus to set up your social media networks, get 100 bonus points for getting off the ground with social media, and then you can use all of the skills that you set up and learn with field day in the real world to help promote your club or your group. So that's a real world application of something you learn in field day. And field day has been all about that for a long time. It gives you a space to try something new and then take it into your amateur radio career further on down the line. The other is a safety officer position for clubs. Then we provide a checklist of good safety practices that the safety officer can go around and help ensure that your field day site for your club or your group is going to be as safe as it possibly can be. And you can earn 100 points for that as well. We can talk about that a little bit if you like. And something else that's noteworthy is 2016 is, of course, the year for National Parks on the Air through the ARRL. This is the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service, and we have the National Parks on the Air year-long event that's going on. And I've heard from many stations that are going to be setting up their field day site at a National Parks on the Air eligible site. There are 484 NPOTA sites for 2016, and I know of several folks that are setting up for field day at a National Parks on the Air site. So we can talk about combining field day and National Parks on the Air if you want to do that as well.
And the irony of that is that Kimmel Park that I was talking about, where I went to field day the first time, is less than a mile away from the George Rogers Clark Memorial, which is one of the national parks on the air. So, yeah. And I'm going to try to activate that one some this summer myself, run back down to the old hometown and figure that out. So, anything else new before we take a break?
Oh, I'd say those are the big ticket items for 2016.
Okay, well, some of the new changes have prompted some questions, so we want to give you a chance to ask those. So we're going to stop the interview as much as we can at this point and give you some time to call in and ask those. So we're going to take our final break, and we'll be back to take your calls about field day with Sean Kutzko, KX9X, right after this message from the Ham Station. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by the Ham Station. For 35 years, the Ham Station has brought new and used radios, antennas, accessories, and equipment to the amateur radio community. Give Jeff or Dan a call at 1-800-729-4373 or order online at hamstation.com. Ham Station carries all the major brands like ICOM, Yaesu, and Kenwood. Shop from a wide selection of radio scanners, MFJ accessories, Heil Sound products, Mirage and Ameritron amplifiers, Cushcraft antennas, and more. Easy online shopping and fast shipping are waiting for you at hamstation.com or call 1-800-729-4373. The Ham Station, proud to sponsor this episode of Ham Talk Live.
CQ, CQ, CQ. You're listening to Ham Talk Live with Neil Rapp.
Join the conversation. Call us on voice with Skype at Ham Talk Live or give us a call at 812-NET-HAM1. That's 812-638-4261. Now, here's more Ham Talk Live.
Welcome back to Ham Talk Live. The Ham Station has you covered for both new and used equipment. Give Dan or Jeff a call at 800-729-4373 or go to hamstation.com and be sure to listen to the show every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on hamtalklive.com, or check out our Facebook page and Twitter feed. Just search Ham Talk Live. It's time for your calls. If you have a question about Field Day, this is your chance to get it answered. Give us an audio call on Skype at Ham Talk Live, or you can call us by telephone. Again, the number is 812-NET-HAM1. That's 812-NET-HAM1 to ask your Field Day questions. Sean is here to answer as many Field Day questions as he can, and if he can't, he'll even get back to you. So please give us a call, and maybe it's scoring, setup, some strategy, ask away about Field Day. That's what we're here for. We actually do have our first question already from Twitter. Katie, WY7YL, asks if Reddit counts as social media.
Wow, that's a great question. Thanks, Katie, for the question. Reddit is one of the largest online communities that's out there, but I would not consider it to be a social media platform the same way that I would say Twitter or Facebook. So I would say that Reddit would not posting your videos or to Reddit would not necessarily count for the social media bonus. If you can, however, post your videos to say Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, because you have that an instant kind of connection. You can establish relationships and friends and followers with Facebook and Twitter, and you can have interactions with them that way. So I would say that Reddit would probably not count for the social media bonus.
Okay, very good. Well, we've got our first question out of the way. 812-NET-HAM1 is the phone number, and we did get a call, but the famous Skype group calling thing didn't work. So we were playing with that earlier, and for some reason tonight Skype's being irritable. So if you want to try calling back, give us a call back. Sorry we couldn't. Oh, yeah, and here it is again, and it's not coming up with a group call. So if I take it, it's gonna dump Sean. So maybe you can
come on, Skype.
Skype, yeah, come on, Skype.
Cooperate.
Maybe you can tweet us or your question, because Skype's not cooperating for some reason. I'm not sure why. So we'll stand by here for a minute, but
standing by.
Okay, he's calling back Extreme Labs, but they're calling back again, but it's still not working. Because this will put everybody on hold. So I'm sorry. Try tweeting, and maybe that'll get your question through.
What's that tweet address, Neil?
Oh, that's at Ham Talk Live. Just at Ham Talk Live. If you have a question. Now I will mention. Oh, we have it on text. Actually, that will work too.
Okay.
Let's see. Where did that screen go to? I saw it. Oh, okay. Very good. I know who this is. This is Tom Henderson, WU9I. Try again, Tom, if you can. And if that does, oh, there we go. It worked.
All right.
Okay. Tom, are you there?
I'm there, Neil.
Yeah. You ran into that. Skype's got this issue with if you try to share the contact details and you haven't finished the sharing on both sides. That oh,
I'm there, Neil.
yeah. Oh, yeah. You'll have to turn down your. It's got this issue with. You'll have to turn down your.
Turn down those speakers.
Speakers, yeah. But anyway, Skype has this issue when you share contact details. If both people don't share them before the call, it doesn't want to do that. So that's what happened with that. So anyway, Tom, go ahead and ask your question. Speakers, yeah. But anyway, Skype has this issue when you share contact details. If both people don't share them. Tom, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm going to hook up earphones because we're looping because you got a time delay.
Yeah, you'll just have to listen to Skype. Just listen to Skype when you call in.
Hi, Tom. How can I help you? Hello.
Oh, he's getting his headphones, I guess.
All right. We will stand by. I can juggle. I can do a soft shoe. I can play my
there
guitar.
you go. There you go. We can do that. Let's wait here just a second for Tom. Trying to see if I had another quick one we could throw in here. Yeah, actually, most common scoring mistakes. What do you think are the most common mistakes when a group submits their field day report?
Well, let's see. The first one that comes to mind, I would say, is whether or not they qualify for the battery bonus. And in order to get the the multiplier, the score multiplier of 5 to your total score, you need to be using a battery for a power source, and you need to be running 5 watts or less. Those two conditions must be met in order for you to qualify for the 5 times score multiplier in field day. If you're running, if you're running a generator as your power source and you're running QRP, that doesn't count. You would only get a multiplier factor of 2. If you are running 100 watts and a battery, that also only counts as a multiplier factor of 2. So in order to get the 5 times multiplier score, you must be running both a battery and you must be running 5 watts or less. That's probably the biggest question that we get about scoring.
Okay, very good. Well, I think Tom's going to have to call us back, it looks like.
Oh, wait, no, he just typed his question
did
here.
Did he type it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he says, hey, Tom, we got it right here. He says, which frequencies and which bands are likely to be more active? What about solar and 12 volts but not QRP? Okay, well, we just talked about 12 volts but not QRP a little bit ago, but we'll touch on that again. Which frequencies and which bands are likely to be more active? Well, that's a very difficult question to answer. I mean, a lot of that is going to depend on propagation to your area. Clearly, the meat and potatoes bands for field day are going to be 20 meters and 40 meters. The propagation has just been terrible lately, as anybody who's been active on a regular basis will know. 40 meters during the day is going to produce a lot of contacts for you. Certainly, even during the middle of the day, you'll be able to get out 300, 400, 500 miles if you've got a decent antenna. 20 meters is always good to check. But the thing is, field day is right near the solstice, so that opens up the possibilities for sporadic e-propagation. So you always want to keep an eye on 10 meters and 6 meters, and if things get really, really crazy with sporadic E, you can even see an opening on 2 meters as well. So what I would say that if you're running a smaller operation, and you've only got the ability to put up a couple of antennas, I would consider either one, a multi-band antenna such as a G5RV or something along those lines that will allow you the ability to get on multiple bands based on propagation, and try to maximize your abilities to use multiple modes if at all possible. Remember, you can work the same station on the same band on all three modes: phone, CW, and digital. So if you have the ability to do multi modes, even with one or two simple antennas, you will maximize your ability to stay on the air longer. And propagation hopefully will not be nearly as much of an issue as the recent band conditions would suggest. Okay, so he has a follow-up question. Tom has a follow-up question. He says, general related frequencies or more amateur extra allocations? Okay, so I would say, based on that, the bands in general for field day get packed from top to bottom. So I don't think that if you're, say for example, you're a general class operator and you're looking to participate as much as possible in field day, I don't think that you're going to run out of stations to work in the general class portion of the band, as opposed to finding stations hanging out in the extra class portion of the band. Certainly there are going to be stations in the extra class portion of every band that you work, but field day is such a large event that there's going to be plenty of people for general class operators to work in the general allocations.
Yeah, one of the things I like to say about field day is the most ridiculous question would be, is the frequency in use?
Yes, the frequency is
because
always
yes, the frequency is in use. Every last one of them, and some of them that aren't even there. Yeah. And he's got another question.
He's got another one here.
Do multiple digital modes work too for same station scoring? So example, PSK, RIDI,
Hellschreiber, all of that. The field day rules state that all digital modes, PSK, RIDI, Hellschreiber, all of those different digital modes, those all count as digital for the scoring purposes of field day. So, for example, if you work a station on 20-meter RIDI, and then you hear that station again on 20-meter PSK, for field day, you've already worked that station using a digital mode. So that would be a duplicate QSO in that mode. So all digital modes are lumped together for the purposes of field day under the general term digital.
Very good. And one that came up in our field day planning meeting the other day was, we've always had a safety officer here in Bloomington, but this is the first year for that checklist, and we had a discussion about the defibrillator, the AED, and you had to have someone that was trained on that. And our question was, if we miss a few overnight hours, but we have one the rest of the time, should that still count? And why have the training if we don't have one of those defibrillators available?
Okay, so the safety officer, the new safety officer bonus points for Class A stations. For people who are not familiar with that, if you download the 2016 Field Day packet, there is an area that describes the new safety officer multiplier, and there is a checklist of various things to keep in mind for the responsibilities of the safety officer. And we state in the rules that the safety officer multiplier is not something that you just, you can't simply appoint somebody in your club as safety officer and give them a wink and a nod and call that qualifying for your bonus points. There's a checklist of material that we provide in the field day packet for things that the safety officer needs to work on compliance to make sure that your site is safe. As Neil pointed out, this is the first year for this particular bonus, and perhaps we did not make this clear in our on the checklist that we provided in the field day packet. But these items are meant to be general guidelines for things that a safety officer should look for. You do not need to meet every single one of the items that is on that checklist in order to qualify for the 100 points safety officer bonus. You should do due diligence, and you should put forth the best effort that you possibly can. But if you don't have somebody on your staff who is AED trained or CPR trained, that is not going to disqualify you from the safety officer bonus points. You should do the best job that you have. You should do the best job that you can in ensuring that as many of these items as possible are checked off for your team. But you are not required to fulfill every single one of those items on that checklist in order to qualify. Does that make sense?
Very good. Very, very good. We have 2 minutes left, and I have like 3 or 4 questions. Tom does say that your local Red Cross may have an AED course available. Ours does here, and it's $25, takes an hour. So
it's certainly good. You certainly want to be as well prepared as you possibly can be. But for terms of field day, if you don't meet every single one of those requirements, we're not going to say you don't qualify for the safety officer bonus. You should do everything within you should do everything reasonable in order to meet that bonus point.
Okay, now we're going to have to go lightning around here. W9 MSM wants to know about the field day locator, how to get to that. Katie also wants you to review the setup rules real quick.
Okay.
And then Tom wanted to know about the analog modes, which sideband, CW, and digital are the
right.
Modes.
Those are the 3 main modes that we use for scoring purposes. Phone, CW, and digital. Those are the 3 main categories for modes, and you can work a station once on each one of those modes per band. Okay, there was a question about the field day locator.
Yes, the locator.
Okay. The field day locator is an interface that we have on Google Maps that you can find on our. You can find a link to that on our main website, which is arrl.org/field day, and that allows you to post your group's location on Google Maps. And if you are an operator that does not have a group to operate field day with, it allows you to see contact information for field day groups that are in your area. So if you're an operator looking for a group to operate field day with, the field day locator allows you to scan the country and find an operating site where that you will be near. And all of the field day locator sites on that map have contact information for them. Last time I checked, there were over 1,500 sites listed on the field day locator map across the country.
Okay, and then Katie's other question was the setup rules.
Okay, so several years ago, we had a lot of concern from folks that were in hotter climates, primarily like the Southeast or the Southwest, that said 24 hours setup time was just too much for them to deal with under the heat in the environments that they were in. So a few years ago, we extended the setup window for field day to begin at 0 hours Friday evening. So that'd be Thursday evening local time, like 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and what would that be, 5 o'clock on the West Coast. So within the 42 hours of the setup window that we have now allotted, every field day group is permitted 24 hours of setup time within that 42-hour window between 0 hours Zulu Friday and 1800 hours Zulu Saturday when field day kicks off. So within that 42-hour stretch, you have 24 hours of setup time that you can use in any fashion that you like.
Very good. Well, Sean, we've got a couple of others that came in by email. I'm just going to forward those to you.
Oh, sure.
And then we'll get those out.
Okay, and if anybody who's listening didn't get a time to ask their question, by all means, send me an email. You can email me at KX9X@ARRL.org. I'll happily answer your question as best as I can before you start setting up for field day in just a few hours.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for your questions, and thank you, Sean, for being with us. That's a wrap for this week's edition of Ham Talk Live. I'd like to thank my guest, Sean Kutzko, KX9X, all the callers and listeners out there in cyberspace, and invite you all back next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time when Valerie Holtzfeld, NV9L, one of the co-hosts of Ham Nation, and an avid DXer will be here to talk about analyzing your logs and improving your contest scores, and how to work those big D expeditions. So for now, this is Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, saying 7375, and may the good DX be yours.